Welcome to the LumiCast, your premier gateway to the universe of limitless photo editing. Dive into the galaxy of Luminar software and the dynamic world of AI photo editing. Join us weekly for a burst of creativity and the drive to transform your photos with confidence and skill. Broadcasting directly from Clever Photographer headquarters, it's time to welcome your hosts, Jakub and Holly Linton.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of LumiCast, where we talk about everything Luminar Neo related and all sorts of photography topics. I am your co-host, Holly Linton, hailing from Northeast Tennessee in the United States. And next to me virtually is Jakub, world-renowned landscape photographer from Chichester, UK. Hi, Jakub.
Hi, Holly. What an introduction. Loved it.
Thank you. So what do we have on the books for today's topic?
Well, we have another exciting topic because we are just about middle of the summer. We are in the middle of the summer. So we thought that we're going to look at some interesting summer topics, starting with the summer photography bucket list. We actually have 5 examples of subject which we think everyone should photograph in summer, and we're going to just alternate between each other to share with you our top 5 things you should photograph before the summer is over. And Holly, what's on your list?
All right. Well, my first one, which I think is a pretty good one, is doing festivals, shooting at festivals and theme parks and even boardwalks. And recently I went to a place called Dollywood in Tennessee, which is Dolly Parton's theme park. And I was probably the only person there with a camera, not going on any roller coasters whatsoever, but just there for the purpose of taking pictures. And of course, I brought my lens babies with me, but I got some pretty creative pictures of, I like shooting the swings that are on chains, kind of shooting motion of all the rides, as well as if you take a look at all of the little places where you can try to win prizes. I take pictures of all the little animals that are all lined up in different prizes, and even, all the food, different types of food, cotton candy. You can really find a lot of interesting shots there and decorated really nicely there, specifically with butterflies and a lot of nice landscaping. So you'd be surprised what you can find at a theme park. Even you've probably seen this in other locations throughout travels, but like when they have the umbrellas hanging from the sky, all the different colorful umbrellas, things like that. So that's what I like to shoot during the summertime, and even local festivals. One here in Tennessee where I live is going to have hot air balloons and, different bands and things like that. So there's so many different things in the summer you can shoot. So festival fun is what I would call my first one. What's your first one?
Oh, that was a great one. I love theme parks. Everybody knows I love Disney World and Disneyland. I also like Universal Studios and much more than that. But yeah, that's a great idea for summer. On my list, well, actually, I guess my list will be a little bit driven by landscape photography, but let's not worry about that. The first one has to be on the top, the sunset and sunrise in the summer, because it's a great time to do that, depending where you are in the world. But especially here in Europe, you can really capture some of the most amazing sunset and sunrises in the summer. And it doesn't really matter on the location. You can do that in a town or city, or you can go out there and, for example, photograph sunset or sunrise at the beach, which is a great location and really connected with summer, or in a landscape or countryside. Now, the one downfall of the sunset and sunrise in the summer is that the sunrise is really early, so you have to really wake up around 4 or 5, and if you travel, maybe even earlier. So that's a shame, but there is an advantage of it. You get up early, you go and photograph the sunrise. Usually the town is completely empty or the place is completely empty. And by the time you come back, it's just time for breakfast and everybody else is leaving. So for example, if you're staying in a hotel, this is really handy because the breakfast is all for you. So I think that is pretty cool when it comes to sunrise. Sunset can be a little bit trickier because people stay out late because it's warmer, but still, some of the colors are incredible. And I really think that sunset and sunrise is a great subject that you should definitely capture this summer. So after the theme parks, what is next on your list, Holly?
All right. Number 2 on my list would be butterflies, dragonflies, any little insects that are flying around. And butterflies, as you already know, is what I call my spirit insect. So I am always on the lookout for them. And when I lived in New Jersey, I didn't see too many. But now that I'm in Tennessee, I see a lot of them and a lot of different species that I've never seen before. I think it's good to plant some flowers around your house that attract these types of creatures in case you can't get out shooting anywhere else. So, yeah, and then that allows for some macro photography as well. Just, any kind of colorful little creatures that are flying around. So
Awesome.
That brings me joy to get a great butterfly shot for the summer. So I haven't gotten mine yet, but I know it's out there somewhere.
What lens do you use for this type of photography?
Well, I just got a new wildlife lens this past week, and I did take a few butterfly shots. I haven't looked at them yet, just so I could stand farther away from the particular. I actually bought a butterfly bush to attract them. I guess that's why it's called a butterfly bush. But so I used it at 800 millimeters because I stood far away on my deck for that. So technically, I'd probably use a longer lens just so that I imagine they'll fly away if I try to get up there with my macro lens. But for a bee or something, you can still certainly use probably 100 millimeter prime macro lens is what I would use. And I also have a 150 millimeter macro lens as well. If you know hopefully you don't get stung by the bee either, depending what kind of bee it is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, for different creatures, it just depends, right? If it's flying away, you want to be farther away from it. But if it's something like, even people shoot ants or flies or something like that, or beetles. There's even like a little, I don't know if it was a praying mantis that I shot the other day, but I was right up close with that, probably like within 5 inches with one of my lens babies. And I was on a step ladder because it was up on a lamp. But anyway, so yeah, just use your best judgment with which lens you should use for which type of little creature.
Great. I love butterfly photography and bees and all sorts of, insects or little creatures in the summer. That's a great idea. On my list, the second one is about fireworks. I think that summer is a great time to photograph fireworks, regardless where you are. You can photograph it through some kind of important days or celebrations or maybe even festivals again. And it's just different celebrations around the world or around Europe. Now, of course, that you can photograph fireworks also around the New Year. That is also a great time when to do that. But the advantage of summer is that you don't have to freeze during the photography. Because the fireworks itself, to do it properly, you will probably need tripod. You will need to have your camera set in a good location and kind of have your framing right and just wait for the right moment. So this is where I think the summer is just a little bit easier for that. You can just be comfortable with the temperatures and have a lots of fun with it. Now, what's the name of the celebration in United States where you do lots of fireworks?
4th of July.
4th of July. 4th of July. Is that like a fireworks everywhere?
Yes. Independence Day. Yes, fireworks everywhere. I haven't watched any in quite a few years. I'm in my pajamas by then.
Okay.
But there's always a big Macy's 4th of July fireworks on TV.
Okay.
So that's something as a child, like always watching that. So if you can't get out, you can always find fireworks display on TV. But yeah, everywhere. And I noticed moving to Tennessee, there's a lot of fireworks stores like on every corner. So people are buying fireworks and shooting them off all year long. Yeah, 4th of July, you'll definitely see it. Memorial Day, maybe you'd see. But a lot of towns in the summertime do fireworks every weekend, like on a Saturday night, especially when I lived in New Jersey at the Jersey Shore. That was just a big thing. There was always fireworks all summer long. So you're not just limited to the one holiday.
So that's the confirmation that summer is a great time for fireworks photography. Well,
Yes.
With that, we move to your third subject or topic to photograph.
Okay. Third one for me would be wildlife, to include birds. And I have deer in my yard now, and there's still little babies being born. So there's little baby deer with white spots all over them jumping around my yard, and any kind of chipmunks. When I think about animals in my yard, I have such a variety to choose from. I do have a raccoon, but I don't recommend any nighttime photography for raccoons.
Did you give him a name?
No, not yet. And so, of course, wildlife out there, if you're traveling around, you might seek out places where there's specific wildlife. Like I know people like to go to wildlife refuges and different places in the mountains for maybe bear photography. And I'm going to be heading to North Carolina next week where they have a lot of elk. So I've shot them before, but I hope to get some better pictures of them this time, and maybe even some bears, but from the safety of a vehicle, of course. So
vehicle and also 600 millimeters lens, I think, is a good combination.
Yes, that's why I just got 800 millimeters, so I could just be that much farther away from it. And and then if I say bucket list, that's on my list for this summer is the perfect hummingbird shot, because I find that's kind of not hard to come by. I see hummingbirds flying around, but to be able to shoot it and get a good crisp shot of it, do it on burst mode and with a faster shutter speed, but you got to wait for them to come around, and then the raccoon has eaten or drank all of the hummingbird food. So I'll have to figure out a good strategy, the best way to just sit quietly and wait for a hummingbird to show up. I think that's always people get excited if they can get a great hummingbird shot. So that's it for my third subject. What about you?
Well, actually, I was just thinking if anybody has any tip on how to take care of raccoon or how to photograph a hummingbird, you're more than welcome to write it in the comments of this podcast. Anyway, on my third spot are picnics and barbecues, or actually any food that is eaten outside during the summer. I'm a massive fan of barbecues. I love barbecues, all sorts of things. It's just a really great way to get together with friends and family and be able to spend time outside. I really like that. And picnics too. Now, as people know, I'm originally from Czech Republic. Picnics don't exist there, but since now I live in England, the picnics here are very, very popular. Every real family needs to have a picnic basket, in their whatever storage or cupboard, and it needs to be ready with the plastic plates and glasses and cutlery, and it's just lots of fun. And it's actually quite exciting to do it for the first time when you get yourself little scones, like cakes with marmalades and butter and bottle of wine and maybe some cheese and baguette, and you go out there in a park or into the countryside, and it's really, really cool. So I like that a lot. And actually, if you really do it right, like with a nice blanket and maybe color, kind of match things together, it can create beautiful images. You can be really creative with it.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a fan of barbecue, Holly?
Not anymore. I'm not a fan of food, and I don't get together with anyone like you do. I'm just a lonely soul here.
Okay.
No, back in the day, you're a youngster though. I could see why that's all really fun.
Now, in that, we have already covered 6 different topics to photograph. We're going to take a minute break. We're going to run the ad, and then we're going to come back with 4 more. So don't go anywhere. We're going to speak to you soon.
If you're listening to the LumiCast podcast, then we share something in common. We love editing photos, and we love Luminar. It's almost breathtaking what this amazing tech can do for you. On our website, you'll find countless different things to help you be more creative than you ever thought imaginable. From our photo manipulation masterclass to our power bundle with 986 elements, our essential preset bundle, editing software and extensions to our tutorials. Harness the power at the website at www.cleverphotographer.com/Luminar. Again, that's cleverphotographer.com/Luminar. Now, back to LumiCast.
And we are back for the second part of today's podcast, where we're talking about summer photography bucket list. We have already covered 6 different topics to photograph, like theme parks, sunsets, bees and butterflies and so on. And now we're heading for 4 more. Now, as far as I remember, Holly, it's your turn now. So what do you have?
Yes. Well, if anyone knows me, they know I love to take pictures of flowers. So that would have to be in my list. So get out there, find some beautiful flowers, whether they're at your own house, like I've bought some from Home Depot that I haven't killed yet. So try to keep them healthy all summer long. And it's an easy way to just get out there and take some beautiful flower pictures, but also try to find different places that have a festival. So there was a lavender festival that I missed, but that's beautiful. That's definitely on my bucket list, is a big field of either lavender or wildflowers I'd love to shoot. And I think sunflowers are kind of springing up now as well. that's maybe more of a fall thing. At least in New Jersey it was. But here in Tennessee, I think there's some sunflowers that I could get out and shoot. And that's really it. So just try to be creative. Of course, I use my lens babies and all my little sparkly Omni wands and stuff to make it more creative. And you could choose to do macro shots as well, or a giant field of flowers. Flowers are beautiful and they make me happy. So they're always going to be on my bucket list, no matter what season it is.
With your love to flowers, in Europe, you could pretty much do a whole photographic calendar through the year, because it kind of starts with the bluebells. That's the kind of big blue, beautiful purple flowers in the woods. And then it goes straight into the tulips. So you would fly to Amsterdam or Netherlands. Then it switched to poppy seeds, and the poppies, the reds all over the UK. And then obviously it goes to the summer flowers, where I think the lavender is incredible to photograph. I actually just came back from the workshop in the south of France where we photograph lavender. And we were in a place called Valençol, which is one of the most known areas for lavender fields. And some of them are like gigantic. It's incredible. It's incredible to see it. We were able to even fly drones above it. And honestly, it's just unbelievably beautiful. Like, it almost makes you cry. Like, the mixture of the landscape, the colors, together with the kind of warm air and the smell of lavender is just beautiful. It really is something to see. So if you ever get a chance, even if it's in States, I think the lavender field is definitely something to photograph. And then, just like in your place, there were some sunflowers there already, but here in UK it will come later as well, probably towards the end of August. So yeah, you can photograph something across the whole season, which I think is really exciting. Well, that brings me nicely to my fourth subject or thing to photograph. And I don't know how about the rest of the world, but especially here in Europe and in UK, this is a great time to photograph Milky Ways and star trails. Again, because things are just aligned right, and it's warm enough to spend hours outside in the evening and just, spend time to photograph these incredible night skies. Now, of course, you need a little help with it. So things like PhotoPills app, which is available on Android as well as iPhone, is a great way to check for the location of the Milky Ways and the star trails. And it also gives you an idea and suggestion on how to set up your camera. So I think that's a really cool thing to photograph in the summer. And it's not necessarily the easiest subject to start with, but I can tell you that once you manage to photograph like Milky Way above a good subject, it's really incredibly rewarding. So I wish everybody would go and try it. I think all you need is your camera, maybe to have a remote control and faster wide lens, and you can be really creative with that too. Have you ever tried photographing stars or Milky Way?
No, I guess that is on my bucket list. Maybe not for this summer, but some point in my lifetime. But I'm not a morning person, and I'm also not a night person. So I'm probably in my pajamas by p.m. But I know it would require me to be out late. But I would, if someone told me what to do, I would definitely do it. I don't understand all the settings. And well, you said, so what would you do? Shoot at like f2.8 or something, and then
as lower as it goes. And then there is actual calculation between your size of your lens and also the f-stop you're using, and then it will tell you the shutter speed inside of this PhotoPills app. So you don't really have to learn or try to guess it yourself. However, I agree with you, especially the nighttime photography. It's easier when you have somebody with you who knows what they're doing, because the last thing there, you don't want to spend there half an hour, guessing what to do. So.
I'll be trying it out in my yard because we do have a lot of stars that you can see, whereas in New Jersey we have too much light pollution. But imagine me out there trying to do it, and then who's helping me? The raccoon.
We have to give him name.
I think I'd be too scared. I'll be too scared to go out there and try it by myself. So maybe you could I'll find a workshop or something.
Okay, Holly. Well, on that note, let's leave Milky Way behind and move to your fifth subject. What do you have there?
Okay. You probably don't know this phrase, but some people will. Only the shadow knows. It's from a show or a movie or something from my youth. But that leads me to say shadows would be a good thing to shoot in the summertime, because if you do get out there and it's harsh lighting, you can use that to your advantage and try to find the contrast between the lights and the darks. Maybe architecture is kind of what I'm thinking about, where you see harsh lines of, the buildings or something, or even the shadows from trees, things like that. So as you're out there, search around and see what kind of shadows you can find. Maybe there's something really interesting. So that's a real short one, but I think that's something people can look for. What do you think?
Definitely. It's a photography subject on its own, actually. There are some photographers who specialize or focus on capturing just shadows because, as you mentioned, it can be also really creative. It can be plants and blinds in the windows, and it can be buildings and trees and people. And I've seen some incredible stuff with shadow photography. So you're right that now it's a great time, because if you're not photographing sunset or sunrise, you got to do something in between. And that's where the shadow photography steps in, I feel.
Yeah, that's for the people who don't wake up early and who don't like to go out in the dark.
Who are in pajamas at 6 to meet George the raccoon. Okay, my fifth subject, following the fact that I can hear thunders outside, actually, because we are just about to have a storm here, is a summer storm photography. Ideally in landscape, countryside, but you can also photograph it in town or city. I think the city and town is not necessarily that exciting because you can photograph that any time of the year. But to have a really beautiful golden field, already maybe cut field with these kind of huge, how do you call this when they put the wheat together? This kind of rolls of wheat when they cut them and put them together,
Oh, that like hay barrel or the
Yeah, hay. Yeah, so you can use them as a foreground element with really dramatic sky behind, maybe with the lighting. I think that can be really exciting. I think another way to photograph summer storm is also, for example, finding a single tree in a field and then photographing it as a main subject with the storm behind. Now, ideally, you would not get close to the tree because you don't want to get struck by lightning. So this is where the 800 millimeters is really cool. But even 140, 120, 240 would do. So it's not really that big deal. And you can photograph it with any lens. But I think the storm is really cool. And if you don't have a lightning, it doesn't matter. You can still photograph some beautiful, beautiful stormy skies, because sometimes the clouds and everything together create really nice contrast, lots of clarity, and it can be really epic. So yeah, that's my fifth subject. Should we quickly go through each of our lists? How about you, if you go through your 5 subjects?
Sure thing. So we had festival fun, boardwalks and theme parks, little insects, butterflies, dragons, and any little creatures around your house or elsewhere. Then we have wildlife, to include birds, deer, any kind of animals. And then we have flowers and shadows. And that's it.
Cool. Which one would be your favorite out of the 5? What would you say?
Probably flowers.
Great. And on my list, I started by sunsets and sunrises at beach, landscape, or countryside, wherever. Make sure you go out there and photograph beautiful sunsets. Then also I talk about fireworks, and maybe fireworks at festival, show, celebration, or something like that. Then we also talked about summer food, which is eaten outside, things like picnics and barbecues and maybe even food festival, or even simple things like ice creams and, lollies and stuff like that. Then we talk about night photography. So I talk about the fact that you can photograph beautiful Milky Ways and star trails in the summer. And I finish it off with summer storm photography in landscape or countryside, or again, fields and mountains. And you can really be creative with that. Out of all of them, I have to say my favorite always been and always is sunset. It's definitely my favorite thing to photograph, especially in the landscape. Being in the mountains with a beautiful sunset is pure happiness for me. So that's what I would choose always. Holly, that was great. So we have covered 10 subjects which you can add to your summer bucket list. We hope that it will give you some nice inspiration. And if you go out there and photograph something, make sure you let us know in the comments under the podcast. For today, Holly, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure, as always.
Great. And we'll see you all next week on Friday. Talk to you all next week on Friday. Have a great weekend and speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
And that's a wrap. Now, there's only 3 things left to do. Subscribe to this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Visit our website at cleverphotographer.com/LumiCast to see what we have in store next. And stay creative and keep editing your photos no matter what anyone says.